Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the App Advisory Show. I've got the guys from Pleo. Hi Liz, how you doing?
Hey, I'm really well, thank you. I was saying to you earlier, right? I was conscious that I might sound a bit nasal because I'm slightly struggling with a bit of a cold, but luckily it's not COVID. We're all good.
Same here, so we can call it the Lurgy podcast or whatever, just for this one. A little bit of cold. So yeah, if you are hearing two nasally people, it's not your podcast provider. It literally is us. So you'll
buckle up, guys.
Yeah, exactly. Probably if you quicken it up, it'll probably sound even weirder than it probably does now. But Liz, tell us a bit about you personally. Actually, I know, and then we'll talk a bit about the products.
Yeah, sure. Hey everyone, really great to be here. Super excited. My name's Liz Sheldon. I head up the UKI Accounting Partnerships channel at Pleo. I've been at Pleo for just over 2 years, which is somewhat of a veteran, I think, in Pleo terms. So was actually one of the first few hires that we had in the UK market, really helping set up and establish that partnerships footprint here in the UK a few years ago. So it's been, really nice, I think, to grow from what was initially a very small cohort of ambassadors, really, that saw the vision, believed in us, worked with us from day one and are still with us today, and now grown to over 600 different, accountancy firms across all our markets. So that's been really cool.
Cool. So for those who don't know, tell us a bit about Pleo.
Yes. Really simply, Pleo is a company spending solution. So it's truly end to end in the sense that anything and everything to do with your client's spend, be it expenses, be it mileage tracking, be it petty cash reimbursements, and also most recently purchase invoices. We not only centralize all of that data, but we also automate all of it as well and allow for any and all stakeholders involved in that journey, both from the point that transaction is made on the end user side, all the way through to the manager checking, overlooking, seeing that real-time visibility, through to the business owner having that sense of like a helicopter view of what's going on, then through to the accountant, obviously where my passion is, and making sure that everything's looking tidy in the accounts and that accountants have that remote access when it's needed. So yeah, quite holistic and broad, and I think has definitely developed and really evolutionized, I think, since the last 6 years when we first started out.
Okay. We'll delve a little bit into like how you sort of evolved with the business as well, but like what's the history of Pleo? I'm always intrigued to like where this came from. It's either a problem that somebody had or an opportunity someone spotted. Like where did this world come from?
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing with expenses is that I'm pretty sure that everyone that's listening here can very much resonate with what we're talking about when we say how painful that process is. And that is really where Pleo stemmed from. Our co-founders, Jeppe Rindum and Nico Perra. Jeppe especially was the CFO at TradeShift. So he obviously firsthand was experiencing all those pain points that we know about, chasing all of his employees, asking where those receipts are, trying to match up and play detective work, and really wasting a lot of really precious time for someone that's so senior. So from that is where Pleo spun off from. That's where we started, as said, back in 2015, out of our HQ in Copenhagen. And then, we've really evolved to, as said, being something that's quite fully fledged, really quite holistic, and trying to encompass all aspects of that spend, and giving everyone involved that sense of empowerment, but also that sense of control.
So just going back to what you said earlier about when you came in, you're one of the first people on the payroll, first person with a card, etc. Were you in to work with the accounting bookkeeping channel from the off, or were you just actually going out? So they came in with like an idea of this is a channel that we really want to work with and help.
Yeah, it came a little bit after, as you can imagine. We first started with, building out that customer base and saw huge appetite. As I said, we started out in Copenhagen in 2015. A few years later, I believe it was around 2018, we then came to the UK market, and that's really where we did launch and start that partnerships channel here. So yeah, we've had, you know, amazing success, and it's only getting bigger and better in a sense, right? Like, I think expenses is a really interesting point that in the last 20 years or so hasn't seen too much innovation. It's a lot of the time, you know, our biggest competitor is in fact the Excel sheet, which is crazy. I don't know how you guys do it in-house yourself, but there's definitely a better way, but it's necessarily not knowing that there is one. And so we want to really pave the way and show that, but also bring a sense of enjoyment and fun to it as well. I think that's what it should be, right? It should be an enjoyable experience. You should enjoy having to, you know, submit those expenses and really not have to think about it too much, so that you can actually crack on with your real role, which is what you were truly hired for. So yeah.
I think as well, what was interesting with so in-house, we use Pleo. So there's an option. I've got a couple of businesses, so I've tried them all, but we are users of Pleo. In terms of my previous world before working with SMEs, I was corporate, so I was the quarterly, a load of receipts stapled to it wasn't even an Excel spreadsheet. I actually had to write it in, and my writing's terrible for those who've seen any presentations I've done, and then put them in. And to be honest, I think what happens is, like, if you come out of corporate or you've always been in an SME, you don't know any different, like you say. So when I actually came into working with SME and we were doing our own, like we could run it monthly, whatever we did back in 2012 when we started the business, I used to put my, people have heard it before, receipts in a roses tin, and then quarterly, half yearly, 18 monthly, I would do some sort of, I better go and get those back. But I left them on a radiator one year. So the heat came through. When you took all the receipts out, they were blank because all the ink had been heated off. So it cost me about $4,000. And from that point, we were like, there has to be a better way, right? So it was like a bit of personal pain to do that. But I think what was interesting when Pleo came along, to be fair, was we went from a reimbursable model to a prepaid, you've got a card with some money on it. And I think you saying like nothing's really changed in 20 years. It's probably longer than that, really. But all that really happened was, okay, we can give you a card and it just measures everything and you can scan your receipts, but you've still got to go and get the reimbursement. Whereas this is now about, well, actually the company can see what's being paid and used for, put some limits of all sorts, whether it's geography or amounts or types of sales. So I think that evolution, like say from sort of 2017 onwards, we were trying to educate people that there's a better way than spreadsheets, and they were thinking it's reimbursable, and then we're trying to re-educate them again. Actually, I think it's got to be reimbursable. It can be ready, you can have an amount to use, and you can get that money back in. So I think it's been quite interesting, but we've certainly seen more awareness through the pandemic of there's this way of working and this is what you can do. So it is an interesting space. People think our expenses isn't that interesting. I think it's pretty interesting personally.
Oh, definitely. And as you said, you know, during the pandemic, we were very, very fortunate to be one of the few that actually saw, you know, great business results. As you said, as you can imagine, money became decentralized, teams became split up and down the country. We started this wave of remote working that's still very much at play today. So businesses and accountants were crying out for a tool that allowed them that remote access, that allowed them that real-time visibility, that previously that concept of wandering up to someone's desk, borrowing that credit card, shouldn't be doing it for fraud, but you know, that was the reality. So yeah, for sure, I think the pandemic in a sense really helped catapult us far more into the spotlight than ever before. But that thing around, you know, expenses being perhaps not that sexy, not that exciting, money is such an emotive topic, you know, that sense of having to pay out of pocket, you know, these trends that we talk around, financial burdens, financial stresses. So as much as Pleo is very much spoken in these accounting circles amongst bookkeepers and everything like that, equally we're really prevalent within HR circles as well, because of course being given a Pleo card, being empowered to, albeit maybe just £100 a month, but being trusted with company money, no matter how little, is a huge privilege. So yes, absolutely a finance tool. That's what we're here to talk about today. But it is very exciting when we start looking at a Pleo card and all its benefits as, you know, talent retention, talent attraction, employee engagement.
Yeah. I spoke to one construction company. This is a couple of years ago, actually, pre-pandemic, and he had gangs of his team going out, and they used to go for 3 nights to a venue. And this world, he would give them cash. So around about 800 quid, he would give this group of men, 9 times out of 10 is what they were doing. And he would only ever get receipts for about 450 to 500. And the other 300 was sort of lost. So he wrote that off every single week, not knowing what they were spending on. And he said it would get worse towards Christmas. And he wasn't thinking, but they're either going out a bit more or they're buying a couple of presents or whatever it might be, because the cash just couldn't be audited essentially. And he brought this in, and then his spend, he almost got to like 95% of the money being recovered each week as to what was being spent, and could actually reduce how much he gave them. But also if they rang up and said, oh, I need, there's something come up or I need something, yeah, he could actually just make that happen, or his team could make that happen, that they'd have some more funds, or their limits were increased. So it's really interesting when you start looking at that. You don't think of that as a solution for an expenses, but there's lots of these businesses who've got people going out on the road and different ways of doing it. And a bit like you were saying about your employees, your team, if they've got to wait weeks and weeks to get money back, it becomes, it's quite hard. Then they've got to go and ask the bosses, could I have that money? It's a bit tight this month, or it's come to Christmas, or whatever it is. So I think also it gets rid of some of that. I remember one business telling me in a staff survey, one of the key things was that the staff hated claiming their own expenses because it took so long to get it back, and that was because their finance process was so slow. It wasn't because they didn't want to pay them, it's just by the time it came to that point, it became so slow. So there is that element as well of looking after your team as well with it. So yeah, really interesting world.
Yeah, very multifaceted, I think. And I mean, I could sit here and tell you the number of horror stories we've heard, those more on the frontline accountants having to chase for the. I think the whole point we're trying to get at really is that automation of any shape or form, that's obviously within this, it's expenses, but it's an incredible impact to the bottom line in a positive sense. As soon as you can start to eliminate all of the menial tasks, or ensure that you're as real time as you possibly could be to set you up for success. We did some research, it was I think 2 years ago now, where we surveyed Pleo admins that are using the tool and saying, how much time did you used to spend managing expenses, checking them, chasing them, everything like that, before Pleo and after. And it was a difference of about 9 hours per week that they were saving, which is not something to gloss over, right? If that's just one admin, if you start to then multiply that out across all the different stakeholders, across the weeks, across the months and years, cumulatively, that's a huge impact to the company's bottom line. So yes, very important that we do touch on that it's a sense of empowerment. There's also, I think, a sense of pragmatism with what we're talking about as well. And, a financial sense that, the old ways of doing things, paper-based, the sort of lag time that's in between all the stakeholders and chasing is actually huge invisible costs to any business as well.
That's some good use cases there of this world. But tell us a bit about some of the features, like some of the key features. And I mean, there's a newish one that's come out which you mentioned earlier on. So
yeah,
tell us a little bit about some of the core features that an accountant / business owner can work with Pleo.
Yeah. So as said, we capture and automate all of your company spend. So one feature perhaps that I'd love to highlight is a personal favorite for me, something that even over the years I've been using Pleo and expensing, and I still get that magic aha moment with. So I'd love to share that. It's called Pleo Fetch. It's the ability to basically auto grab the PDF or the email receipt that you might get. So a nice example might be Trainline. I was traveling to a client site the other week, bought my tickets, bought my travel, and yes, the Pleo app flashes up, say, great, I can see that you've bought something, then immediately starts to just sync with my email and say, great, now that email's come through and I'll actually auto attach it for you. So again, we're always trying to iterate and tweak and make that enjoyment so enjoyable for the user that we may even get to a point eventually that we don't even have to interact with the Pleo app, and there may not even need to be a sense of submission. It was already done for me. So that's really cool. Also, just purely because the brand team did this wonderful advert. This was back in February 2020, where we let loose about 6 different puppies in our HQ in Copenhagen. So if anyone wants to check that out, that was a really fun advert we did for Fetch. And then the other product, which is so close to my heart, something I've been getting super involved with in the last 12 months, I'd say, is Pleo Bills. So as said, we've really specialized and honed in exclusively on expenses, anything that encompasses, as I said, mileage tracking or petty cash handling, things like that. And we've now started to broaden and diversify and start, going down the realms of purchase invoices. Doing the research, speaking to our accounting partners, what is it that they're looking for? What is it that keeps them up at night? What is it that's annoying them about what's going on right now? And what we heard was, there is a lot of innovation out there, which is great, but what tends to happen is they act rather siloed. There's an app that speaks to a certain element of that invoice lifecycle. There's not necessarily something that takes it through from start all the way to finish. And as ever, enabling all the stakeholders involved in that journey as well. So that's really where Pleo Bills came about. We created this product that allows you to process and upload that invoice into Pleo. So we digitize that for you. You can then approve it and have that sign-off interaction with your client. And then the final crucial part is actually that payment to the supplier. So withdrawing the funds from the Pleo wallet and sending that money off to the supplier, with faster payments, SEPA payments, all of that, sending the supplier remittance. And really, as said, building an all-in-one tool, which is really, really exciting. You'll hear me shouting about it from the rooftops a lot more this year with all our different events we've got coming up.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about this, and then you couple that already with the expenses offering that we have, starts to really, I think, make people sit up and pay attention and actually now challenge that perception that Pleo should in fact be that foundational tool in your tech stack, that you can handle your invoices, you can handle all your expenses and really act as that go-to one-stop shop. So yeah, that's something that is very much front of mind for me and something that I'm really helping to make as beautiful and as sophisticated as possibly can be.
To keep an ear out for, an eye out for as well. And you guys had like quite a big investment, right? It was like one of the biggest. Tell us a bit about that, because I think it caught quite a few people surprised, actually, from my conversations anyway.
Yeah, and I think indicative of just how much momentum there is generally in the space. Yeah, okay. So we recently raised a total of $350 million. It was actually an extension of our Series C. We did initially raise some money earlier on in the year, then we actually chose to extend it, as said, because of a lot of that momentum and buzz that's going on right now. So we're now the #1 invested spend tool in Europe, which is great. In terms of what that means for listeners today, a lot of that money is being funneled into the partnerships channel, which is great for me. This is where this is my bread and butter. So as said, products like Pleo Bills, really putting the resources and attention into that and really actively listening to what the community want and need. And actually, launching and growing into many different new markets. We're getting a lot of bigger businesses, but also those that are further afield that are inquiring, sitting up, paying attention. How do we automate all of this? So, when this was recorded, we launched in Austria and Finland. And then we've also got, 13 other new European countries to launch in later this year as well. So lots and lots of busy things ticking.
World domination then, really is what we're talking about. So by the time this comes out, we'll be able to see exactly where you are. And in terms, obviously, we've got like this audience who will be listening to this and all watching this is going to be accountants and bookkeepers, and there's always a queries around, what systems do you connect with? How does that sort of work? Like, can you give us a bit of an overview of what you're connecting to, and probably like what you don't connect to nowadays, is with most of the apps sort of playing that way. But yeah, give us a bit of an overview about your interactions and integrations.
Yeah, so importantly, we do connect with all the major accounting softwares out there. So your Xero, your QuickBooks, Free Agent, Sage. We also offer custom CSV export. So if you want to, map a particular template to the particular columns that you need, of course, that can be done as well. Yep. So that allows you to then get all of the expense and the data and, the metadata, the receipts, etc., out of Pleo and into wherever you need it to get to. But also excitingly, we have now launched Open API. So that makes it really exciting for businesses of all shapes and sizes to now potentially be integrating and building into Pleo in their own right, and forming it as part of their, as said, foundational tech stack.
And then on the integration with like the cloud systems, the sort of native integrations, is that quite a standard sort of process for those of you listening who are thinking, how does that work? And this will be how the data gets in. Like, how, just give us an overview on what that looks like.
Yeah, so in the setup, when you first, create a Pleo business account, you can select which accounting software you use. And then the integration, to break that down a bit, means that we can actually pull through your chart of accounts. So it means that when the user is spending on the go, they are unknowingly perhaps doing about 80% of that legwork, because they're actually tagging the right nominal code on your behalf, so that by the time it gets to you on the dashboard as the accountant, you can look and say, great, I pretty much know the context and everything's kind of there for me. So as said, yeah, we pull through the chart of accounts. You can also pull through the tracking categories. So you can also split tags. So every single expense can then be assigned to a class or a cost center. And then actually with Xero, which to be fair is probably our very best and our favorite integration, we do also offer like a live sync. So when it comes to our purchase invoices, when you're working on the invoice in Pleo, we actually build with Xero to ensure that the payment status of the invoice as it's moving through Pleo, whether it's due to be paid or has been paid, will actually live reflect and update in Xero as well. So that's really cool. Again, that sense of not just integrating, but ensuring that the tools are actually speaking to each other and ensuring that we maintain that source of truth and allow the accountant to really just stay in that one window without having to dip in and out of different tabs.
Yeah, that's good. I haven't heard about the live sync, so that's interesting to hear. Okay, you mentioned like events as well. So like, hopefully get some face to face. It looks like they're all going to happen. Where are you heading, or where aren't you heading? Might be better. But where are you heading?
XeroCon. Who's looking forward to XeroCon? My God, it's been a long time. I actually wandered through XeroCon back in 2019 when I was but a mere candidate applying for Pleo, kind of muscled my way in there. So I've not experienced the full magic, I think. I'm aware that it's referenced to as, the Glastonbury of accountants. So bring it on. I'm not going to the actual Glastonbury this year, so this will be good. So we've got really big presence at XeroCon, super excited. I said a lot of exciting things to be talking about there, and to get involved and meet a lot of different people. Digital Accountancy Show, we really enjoyed that last year. Dan Cockerton and the team, that was a lot of good fun. Accountex down in London. We recently did the QuickBooks Connect, which was a few weeks ago now. But besides that, I think for us, it's so key to get much closer to the community than we've ever been able to before, right? We've had a good 2 years out of the limelight, really, having to do a lot of Zoom trainings, having to do meetings, remote. And a colleague and I actually visited someone last week, and you just can't replace face-to-face. Spending a good few hours with them, talking really peer-to-peer, hashing out what it is they want to achieve, where they want to take their kind of app stack this year, and where, of course, Pleo plays an integral role in that. And it just, it's been amazing. So a lot more face-to-face, I think, one-to-one. And secondly, as well, doing almost a bit of a roadshow of our own. So we did quite an intimate event, actually hosted in our Shoreditch offices in November. We've got another one up in Leeds, which is coming up April 6th. And this is really just our opportunity to, as I said, get a lot closer to them, host something that's quite intimate, and really bring them into, the decision-making that goes on at Pleo, bring them into the roadmap, reveal what we're working on, and how actually they can take an active role in shaping and informing it. So there's definitely cocktails and canapes too, not gonna lie, but it's just such a nice community feel, and I think that's really what we want to be investing our time and our money.
So if you're listening, look out for those smaller Pleo events. It sounds pretty good. So if someone's listened to this and maybe they've heard of you, maybe they've loosely interacted, or maybe they've never heard of you but want to get involved, how do they get involved with you guys? What's the best way? What should they do if they want to take action now when they listen to this?
So as a customer, if they want to get started, they can go straight to pleo.io. We actually do have a free price plan. So there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't get started and try us out today. I think the key thing to note here as well is that we've got a really robust in-house KYC compliance team, meaning that perhaps previously you're quite used to waiting anywhere up to 4, 5, 6 weeks for a business bank card to get pushed through. The difference with Pleo, you can literally get started in as little as 20 minutes. Even I've been quite alarmed as to the speed at which some of my clients have signed up, and I get back in touch and I'm like, you're already good to go. So that's one thing to note, that we do have that free price plan. Secondly, of course, if they want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn, Liz Sheldon. My email is liz@pleo.io, so really simple and easy. And yeah, would love to connect, and yeah, definitely do reach out.
If you're listening, I think it's a great product, and it sounds like it's got a lot ahead of it. So it sounds really exciting, Liz, to be fair. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it evolves. But I'm pretty sure we'll see each other, because I think I'm at all the same events. So I'll make sure I pop over and say hello when we're there. But thanks a lot for your time, Liz. That's been great, and thanks a lot for your input and some of your experience and what Pleo's going to do. So thanks a lot for that.
No, that's been fun. Thanks so much for having me.
No worries. Okay, guys, we'll call it a day at that. Now, this is on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere there's a podcast, we're on it. So subscribe, hit us a review as well. That'd be good. But for today, we'll leave it at that. Cheers again, Liz.